Happy Friday, guys. With my lively shirt here. I got this shirt in Kansas. I generally don't wear it that much because it's kind of big. I bought an extra large, but I love this, guys. The Shockers. Then you guys are from Wichita State. I like it because it's WSU. I went to Washington State University, but they have the same. So I got a WSU yellow shirt, Shockers. Right. If you guys don't know what a shocker is, I'll let you look it up. I'm not going to explain on here. So happy Sunday. I think I'm going to make a Sunday normal like video where I'm always we do like a kind of a spiritual teaching, maybe just important spiritual aspects, and then I can take requests. If you guys want to hear something specific on a Sunday, then I can talk about that, right? And then just allow that to channel. For one thing, the concept of ask and you shall receive. So if you ask somebody for something, expect to receive it, because as long as you can provide that for other people, this is a very common spiritual practice, right? But and here's one of the spiritual things: if you ask and don't receive, always think of, well, how did I not provide when I was asked for something, right? So sometimes, you have to get you have great balance. So you can't just, do everything you're asked, because people take advantage of you, right? That's a long story. But so one thing that kind of popped up today, and I wasn't thinking of anything in particular, but it just kind of popped up. It was that scene from Ghostbusters where Venkman's like, somebody's coming to town. They're getting ready to go to the top of the building, to take out Gozer the Gozerian. And actually, very powerful scene. Gozer the Gozerian, when that shows up at the end there, and then first thing that says when it's talking to Dan Aykroyd, right? Because Dan Aykroyd is the selected member of the squad, that has to go get him, Ray. And so Ray goes up there, and Gozer looks there, are you a god? And Ray looks at him and is like, no? Then die! Because, right? I mean, if you don't know who you are, then your life's forfeit, right? Because this is just a vessel, right? The consciousness behind all these vessels is God. There's one God. So just knowing that creates all the other spiritual laws that there are out there, right? It's like, Ray, when someone asks you if you are God, you say yes. Don't ever say no. That's actually really good advice. Don't ever answer that question as a no, right? So these two cards kind of describe that, right? You got the Hierophant and the High Priestess. The High Priestess is the emotional aspect of the Godhead, and then the lawgiver here, the Hierophant. And I want to bring up some conflicted things about the Bible, because every spiritual text, it doesn't matter what spiritual text you're talking about. It could be talking about the Bible. You could be talking about anything. I actually wrote a college paper on what I'm about to share with you guys. But any spiritual text is going to be conflicted, because you're always looking at different perspectives, and you're looking at conflicted belief systems within the Bible itself, or any spiritual text, unless it was written by one person. There are some that are just beautiful pieces of poetry that if you just, even at face value, there's so much beauty there. I talk about the Lotus Sutra all the time. This is an amazing spiritual text. But I grew up in church systems, and so I was exposed to a lot of different just Bible knowledge, right? So this one verse tells you that the Bible was corrupted at a very early stage, way before even the King James Version came into existence, right? The King James Version was a part of the Bible that came into being long after the original books were written. Who knows what text they actually used even to write the King James Version. So it's like, and there's evidence here in this one verse that shows you that the priests that came after Moses corrupted the text because they believed in Yahweh. So I'll read the beginning of chapter 6 of Exodus right here. So this is Exodus 6:2 and 6:3. This is after Moses has gone to Pharaoh and is trying to get the children of Israel out of Pharaoh's grasp. It says, "And God spake unto Moses and said unto them, I am the Lord. And I appeared unto Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob by the name God Almighty. But by night my name Jehovah was I not known to them." In other words, they didn't know the name Jehovah or Yahweh. Same. Yahweh is supposed to be the Hebrew, the corrected Hebrew interpretation of the word Jehovah. It's just they use the word Yehovah in a lot of other texts, and so they condensed it down into YHWH or YAHWEH. However you say it, it's the same name. Whether you're talking Jehovah, Yahweh, same name. But that is the masculine aspect of the lawbringer, whereas God Almighty is interpreted as El Shaddai, or all-powerful God, or large-breasted one. I think in the Greek it says that. Anyway, there was a guy that was friends of the church that I went to when I was a kid, David Ebaugh. And I haven't actually looked up his name in a long time, but he wrote a book called El Elyon Now that I read and actually wrote a paper on in college that was based on that one verse, or on Exodus 6:2 and 3, because in the Bible, everything written before then just talks about Yahweh. But if Abraham never knew God as Yahweh, only God Almighty or El Shaddai, then every use of the word Yahweh before that verse is a corruption of the text, which happened long before the King James Version, right? So the children of Israel knew a feminine God before they knew the masculine God. And obviously they needed the masculine God to bring down the law to take the children out of Israel, right? I mean, that's what Moses came to do, right? He just stuck his staff. He's like, let my children go. You can't be a master to us, right? You have no power over us. We're leaving. Goodbye. And if you don't let us leave, if you try to control our energy, this is a main point today. If you try and control our energy for your own personal gain, then you're going to start getting plagues. And right, the lawgiver, and that's what created all the Masovic laws, right? There's like over 400 of them, and then of course Moses was the one that brought the law down, the 10 Commandments, and then he broke them and got in trouble, so he couldn't go into the Promised Land. Blah blah blah. You guys all know that story, or maybe you don't. And if you don't worry about it. It's not that important, right? But it's just important to know that the face value of religious texts are conflicted. What you always want to know is the spirit behind what's being said, and let divine guidance teach you what is real, right? Even in the New Testament, when Jesus said, all the law and all the prophets comes to basically this one thing, where love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. So if you apply the first one to the second one, it's the same thing. Right? We are all one. You and I are one, just as the Father and I are one. And when I say Father, I mean both aspects. Creator God, right? Father, Mother. Because there's when you fall outside of creation, it just comes to the 0 point, and everything starts with one creative event, and then you have two, and so then you have an attraction property, or the energy, the force that pulls you back together. Yeah, super simple, right? But that's what also creates the pillars of severity, because half of creation doesn't know that they are God. So you have to create severity where people feel like they need to feed off of one another. And money, in a way, is the last aspect of mankind being able to feed off of one another. Think about how you view each other, and what happens in all of you guys are watching this video, right? All of you have worked in different business places, and so the judgment of other people always get projected onto themselves, get projected onto other people. And so if people are trying to constantly lift themselves up around you, in a way they will try to pull people down around them in different ways, right? All the hierarchical systems of business that you see and society, right? People trying to climb the social ladder and all that yes, I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm hurting anybody's feelings that you feel like you need to climb a social ladder, but sorry, I just don't see where it's relevant. And so, to be honest, in a lot of ways, I was on LinkedIn quite a bit, but I started to get off of LinkedIn more and more because it's just a lot of people selling something for nothing, or nothing for something. I don't know how to say it. What do you say? What are you selling? We'll pull cards here in a little bit, but I mean, and so the way that so people are actually, because people are seeing themselves in a light of how much money they have and directing that on how much they're worth, it creates a really skewed imbalance of society. I read a post of somebody that I have a lot of respect for, and I still do, but I think a lot of times we're even unconscious of the way that we are viewing other people according to the way our society works. He was talking about, he was going to a conference where he was asked to be a speaker, and this is somebody who's been a speaker for 20 years, public speaking, and so he's been, I can help your team, development teams and help your business grow. But that's pretty much what everybody's offering, right? Is how can I scale your business? So you're basically just, what are you really offering, right? I mean, let's think about this. Anyway, he ran into a homeless person out of a conference and was surprised that the man was willing to actually have a conversation with him. And he found that the guy was actually pretty smart. And he said, after he talked to this guy for a while, he encouraged the guy and asked him some questions about, how do you think you could get yourself out of the situation that you're in and what you're doing? And the way that he responded was really interesting. For one thing, what makes him think that he was in a lesser position than he was, right? Any of us could choose to be where, if I wanted to put a Bowie knife on my pocket and walk out into the forest by myself, does that make me less than someone else? No. It's senseless, right? When you really think about it, it doesn't make sense. And so something that really touched me yesterday is one of you guys commented, and said that I would love to help you in your project because, for me, and the message that I have constantly gotten from Spirit is whatever you have to do to make abundance available for everyone is what we should all be trying to get, right? And me selling a service to somebody to give them advice is not creating abundance for everyone. I'm sorry. It's just not. It never will be. Me teaching you how to do that for somebody else isn't going to create abundance for everyone. You have to create abundance from here. And then if you want to create things as a society for each other, you got to partner together to build stuff, right? That's the problem. That's the thing that people really haven't figured out to do because of, their value systems of people trying to prop themselves up against one another. So it is what it is, right? Because they don't really know that we're just all one, accessing each other through a vessel. So you're always looking into each other's eyes, into your own eyes. So, when you guys think about when you went to work somewhere, think about the actual jobs that you did and how well you did them. And I can tell you from personal firsthand experience, all of us struggle at times. It doesn't matter what we're doing, whether you're trying to build something or fix something. You know, usually the how successful you are at what you're doing is how mindful you are, getting out of your own way, not thinking about yourself at all, just focusing on the task at hand, not thinking about how well you're doing it or how you might not be doing it, right? Because that doesn't matter. All that matters is what you're focused on right then. And if you need help, how humble you are to ask for help, because all of us need help. I need your guys' help to do this, right? If I want to live in a co-creative world together with you guys, I can't do that by myself. Now I can create my own little happiness for myself, but I would much rather be part of a community that's building stuff for each other. I mean, that's how we get out of the old animal nature that's feeding off each other monetarily, right? When you imagine 1 million people working together in equality. If you structure it correctly, like a natural organism, where you basically would have teams, making decisions for whatever they're creating that's providing for other parts of the organism, the money would go away. And you could just set a boundary for the whole organism against the rest. Not only that, but the community wealth for something like that would be enormous. Imagine 1 million people working together in equality, building things for each other. For one thing, you'd have to work a lot less time than you would in a normal business model. And the community wealth, I mean, you could own the equivalent of like probably a medium-sized state just for like recreation. I mean, think about, you'd be working like 15, 20 hours a week max. And then each being able to share, as long as you structured it correctly, you could share all that time together. You could have every third week, you could have an event where we all just, play together. So that's what I created on this webpage. It's attached to this YouTube channel if you guys want to check it out. There's a main contract, and actually I just amended the co-creation guide, updated it because I haven't really been promoting it yet. Yeah, it's super simple. And there's just some basic rules that are spiritual laws that actually even came about even in the Bible, and a lot of even spiritual leaders, if your spiritual leader is talking about politics in any way, point them to 1 Samuel chapter 8. Say, look, why are you putting your energy into people that want to rule over you? That's stupid. So this, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but read 1 Samuel chapter 8 if you never have. Because, even after Moses, the story of Moses taking the Israelites, after the 40 years in the wilderness, and they finally come to the promised land, and Moses is gone now because he wasn't allowed to go there. They asked Samuel, who is the spiritual leader, for a king. And he channels God for them, because that's what we do. We're channeling divine messages for each other. If you want a king, it's your choice, right? You're the creator. It doesn't say that, but that's basically what he's saying because he's like, you can ask for whatever you want. If you want a king, he's going to turn your men into warmongers, and your sons into warmongers, your daughters into, I can't remember what it's worded. It's like bakers and maids, basically. And you'll no longer own your own property. You'll be serfs on the land. And then when you cry out to God, he will not answer you because you made your choice. And they asked for a king anyway. Then, ever since then, right? Then they went to war. They started fighting everybody. And they were in conflict, right? Because they were in conflict with themselves. Because they weren't the king or queen of their own lives. Right? So simple messages, right? So let's pull cards on these two and see what we get. See where you guys are at. The Hierophant and the High Priestess. We'll pull on the High Priestess first. So this is your intuitive ability and emotional sensitivity. We'll use my Woodward deck. And so, like, what I've been describing here is actually a lot of the differences between Christianity and what Jesus taught. Because Christianity kind of runs off of what Paul wrote after Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. If you guys really read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, fire of arrows, frustration. Are we getting frustrated in our High Priestess energy? Or your intuition? Justice and frustration. This five arrows. There's a lot of conflict around. This is what it is. And this is what I'm feeling. And this is what I felt even today. I've had some reach outs, and there's a lot of frustration because people are trying to figure out how to work together. If there's not any money left in the system, and this is what I felt like from the reach out yesterday, there are so many people that are living. Let's say I'm a widow. Let's say my husband died, and I'm living on Social Security. There is nothing that I would love more than to be part of a peaceful group of people and just do what I'm asked. I would gladly work all day long, right? And cooking or whatever people need, teaching children, but there's frustration because there's so conflict because everybody's asking for money, and if you don't have enough money to advertise, right? You're trying to advertise what you want, what you're offering, and then you have to go all that about building a business and yada yada yada. Wouldn't it be so much easier? So so your mental state gets poor, right? And that whoever you are, my heart goes out to you because you said you would love to help in whatever way you could, but you're bedridden from mental illness and I don't know if that's from it, but it's like all of us are here for each other. And for one thing, every single one of us, me included, have been in the darkest places mentally, because when you're trying to create a community of people to work together and everybody else is trying to sell to each other, you'll get frustration. Right? Arrows shooting at something that doesn't ever feel like they're landing. And he's shooting at a calf. Or you see that? Like you're not ever getting really the fatted calf. Right? Constantly shooting arrows, not really getting the fatted calf. And so your intuition tells you, and this is true for me, your intuition tells you that why are people, it's because they're serving that thing, right? If the money, as soon as the money goes away, now you have no choice but to just say, what do you need? I'm here to help. This is what happened in the 30s, right after the breakdown. That's when you get justice. And I can see why the justice card and the five arrows came out, right? And so the name of this video is going to be a warning to worshipers of Baal, the Baal worshipers. If you guys aren't familiar with that story, read 1 Kings chapter 17 and 18, where Elijah basically slaughters 450 Baal worshipers, challenges them, say, look, if your God's real, worship, we'll put an altar and we'll see which one works. As soon as theirs failed, you just take them to the river and kill them. Literally. right? Because if you are worshiping if you're worshiping an idol, if you're in the middle of idol worship, you're almost forfeiting your life, right? Because you're not really in service to other people, you're in service to an idol. And when you're in service to an idol, what are you doing, right? You're not connecting with anybody. You're not in service to them. Let's get one more card for the High Priestess here. 2 more cards. Transition and the Otter. Love and transition, right? There's justice. There's conflict around us. And frustration. It's frustrating when everybody's worshiping an idol instead of seeing what the... when you guys see my webpage, you'll see that if people want to work with me, I'll give them whatever I have, because all we need to do is create the right structure to build whatever we need together, to make sure that I don't want to be in charge. The last thing I want to be is the person that everybody goes to and tells them what to do, right? No, you guys need to be self-directing, right? All you got to do is come up with a game plan, and then come up with a list of responsibilities, and then, or just be open to just do what you're asked. It's super simple. Yeah. So let's go to the Hierophant. What are we talking about with teaching here? What are we learning? Because teaching is about knowledge, right, and wisdom. Morning. A little bit of sadness. But sadness, but there's a star shining. So you're being guided by the pole, the North Pole, right? You're following your path. Queen of Swords, Queen of Arrows. This card has been coming out a lot lately because we're emotionally fat because we're blocking off negative energies, trying to siphon off of us. The Queen of Swords, or the Swan, is the same as the Queen of Swords, right? She's beautiful, yet very stern, and nodding. And so there's a little bit of sorrow behind that, right? You guys see this card? If you guys can see this, the light's kind of shining messy. Yeah. Balance. Maintain balance under pressure. And this is advice that I would give anybody if you're struggling. Just lay down until you can't get up anymore, because you'll bleed off negative energy. And most of the negative energy that all of us go through is being hard on ourselves, because you'll have the judgments of other people projected onto you, especially if you don't have enough money, or it doesn't seem like you are making enough to fit somebody's idea. Because all of us know that as soon as people generally don't want to hang out with you if they feel like you're always asking, or you're a beggar, right, in any way, or you don't have enough money to do what they can do because they have more money. It's like, why don't you just go to work? Well, tell you the truth, it's more work to bleed off the negative projections of other people than it is to go to work on any job. I guarantee you, 100%. And so those of you that have mastered your mind out there, there's a new generation of healers coming to help pull those people out of the darkest places, because that's how you become a healer. You pull yourself out of the darkest places that you can possibly think, right? Because you can get into really dark places. One of my favorite movies on that subject is A Wonderful Life. I'm sure you guys have seen it if you're old enough, and if you haven't seen it, watch it. Old Jimmy Stewart movie. Somebody that was in service to his community for a long time, and always wanted to travel the world. Never got to because he was constantly in service to the people around him, and something happened where he's like, look, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. And he fell into a really deep, dark place mentally. And he realized that his life insurance policy made it so that he was worth more dead than alive. Threw himself off a bridge. But that's when an angel came and saved him, if you guys know the story. And then the whole community backed him. Said, here, started throwing money at him. Beautiful story. So don't ever think that there's not light on the other side of darkness, because sometimes you have to go into the deepest, darkest places so that you can help other people. That's why you went there, so that you could help people out of there and heal them of all their infirmities. And that's, one thing that I know we're going to be doing. The first communities that we're going to start as far as in co-creation are going to be the healers. Because we don't want to, the people that are going to be willing to work together aren't going to be the rich fat cats out there, right? Who have created a distorted version of reality in their mind. The reason that we have depression and all those things is people are worshiping this thing. And that the people that are working the hardest have the least amount of this thing. And so those are going to be the healers, who are going to be the most psychic, the most intuitive, the ones that can heal, that are going to be working together to heal anything, right? Once you understand, you can heal anything. There isn't anything that can't be healed. It's just we are just vessels, and all you have to do is ask, and then you can channel, you can create health in anybody, including yourself. But sometimes it's okay to ask. The lovers. Right? That's when the two aspects of yourself come back together, and you finally marry yourself on the inside, and two people finally find one another. Such a beautiful story. I hope you guys appreciated this as much as I did, because this is an amazing reading. I kind of got a little bit emotional there, because it is hard when you see people that are hurting. There's people starving in third world countries because of greed. That's it. It's the only reason. Let's get an oracle card. So, Baal worshippers, you're on notice. Mirrored souls. So, in a lot of ways, you guys are mirroring souls of other people, right? Who are going through similar experiences, going through the dark night of the soul, getting themselves out of a dark place. Let's get one more. But you're also a free spirit, right? I haven't got this card before. I love this card. Just kind of dancing, letting the fire fly, hair out. Everything's hanging out. I love you guys. So much. Have a wonderful Sunday. I'll be back on tomorrow just to give a regular energy reading. I think I'll make these Sundays kind of do this. We'll do specific teachings, and then if there's any teachings that you guys are curious about or want to know more, have a question about, I'd love to try it. Because even if I don't know, if you ask, then I probably will know, right? That's how it works. Love you guys. Have a wonderful day.